Cup.
Centennial Cup champions in 2024.
Hey there, folks. This is the OJHL All Access Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Alex Bashabansky here. Hope everyone is doing great. Coming on the show today will be two guys from the league to talk about what's gone down so far this season. The OJ's VP of Business Development, Rick Morocco, and the Vice President of Hockey Operations, Chris Vanstone. They will be on in a bit. First, though, lots of league news to go over before we get to them. How about some highlights from the World Junior A Challenge that's going on right now in Camrose, Alberta? Canada East features 13 OJHL players on the squad, but opening things up against the U.S. on Monday, yeah, that was a tough way to start. The American team is always a collection of stars, and this year is no different, with several players listed on the NHL preliminary draft rankings. This was not Canada East Day as the Americans waltzed to an 8-0 shutout in the opener. Last night was significantly better, though. Dylan McFadden had a goal and 2 assists. Ryder Cali picked up a couple of helpers, but the story of the night was Collingwood's Noah Tegelar, who turned aside 39 shots and made some absolutely insane saves on the way to being named Team Canada East Player of the Game. Canada East triumphs 6-1. They will now face Sweden in their next game Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to watch the game, you can head to hnlive.ca, which is streaming all the tournament games. Okay, moving on to some news from the OJHL. A recent commitment to tell you about. Brody Cook of the Leamington Flyers has committed to NCAA Division I school UMass Amherst. He's just 17, so will likely have one more season before heading down to the school. But Brody is having a fantastic year with the Flyers. He's third in scoring with 30 points in 33 games. Congratulations, Brody. Anthony Filiomeni of the Mississauga Chargers has signed with the Oshawa Generals of the OHL. He's expected to join the team full-time next season. The physical power forward has been having a solid season with the Chargers, putting up 14 points in 28 games. Anthony just turned 16 and is one of the youngest players in the OJ this season. Congratulations, Anthony. We had Niagara Falls Canucks head coach Frank Pietrangelo on the show last week, and 2 days later, he and co-owner Brandon Boone were recipients of the Doug Austin Memorial Award as Niagara Falls Sportspersons of the Year for bringing Junior A hockey to the Falls after 52 seasons of competing in Junior B hockey in the GOJHL. Congratulations on the honor, guys. Okay, the CJHL Top 20 rankings came out on Monday. Trenton continues to lead the way in the nation at number 1, followed by Leamington at number 5, Collingwood at number 10, and the Toronto Junior Canadiens at number 19. Now let's see how that compares to the latest OJHL Power Rankings as voted on by the league's coaches. Trenton, number 1 there as well. But again this week, Collingwood leapfrogs Leamington up to second spot in the coaches' ranking. The Flyers sit number 3. Halliburton is 4th. Milton comes in at 5th. Wellington in 6th. Interesting to see the JRCs at number 7. 3 teams not in the CJHL rankings are ahead of them in the OJ rankings. The Canucks are up to number 8, and St. Mike's slides in to the 9th spot. The Burlington Cougars round out your top 10 in 10th spots. And joining me now are the OJHL's VP of Business Operations, Rick Morocco, and the Vice President of Hockey Operations, Chris Vanstone. Gentlemen, how's it going? Good to see you again.
Great to see you. Great, Alex. Happy to be here.
So, I mean, we got a lot to talk about, obviously, but let's just start with the big tourney going on right now, which is the World Junior A Challenge out in Camrose, Alberta. 13 OJ players. And by the way, we let off with some highlights off the top of the show to show what's going on, but 13 OJ players on the team this year, I believe that's one more than we had last year. I think we had 12 last year, but they definitely make up the bulk of the Team Canada East squad. Just talk about this. Whoever wants to take it, what it's like for these guys to have that opportunity to put the maple leaf on their chest, represent their country, but also really have the eyeballs of the world on them, especially the scouting community out there in Camrose.
Yeah, I guess I'll answer that. I've been fortunate enough to be part of Team Canada East 3 different occasions as director of operations. The last 2 years, we were fortunate enough to play in the gold medal game. Unfortunately, we lost both games, but brought home 2 silver medals in 23 and 22. It's a great opportunity for the kids to play in front of the scouts, as you said. I mean, when we play a USHL All-Star team, they're just loaded with NHL talent. Number of kids that were drafted last summer, a number of kids that will be drafted this summer. Sweden has always had strong teams. They have a number of NHL picks that will be playing. And last year we had 2 kids get drafted, and I think the way they played at that event really, really helped them in Jonathan Morello and Trevor Hoskin.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it on the opening night on Monday. I mean, that U.S. team has got so many players that are listed for this year's draft. A couple guys that have already been drafted, and that Sweden team, what they did to Team Canada West, who's always got a strong team as well. So, yeah, no question, but they get to face some really, really top talent. Rick, question for you. I mean, the last time we hosted this, I believe was Whitby in 2015. Is that correct? So, yeah. Any plans for us to do this again in the OJ, have a host team?
Oh, for sure. We're always looking at hosting events such as this. I mean, it's a world-class event, so it's on our radar for sure. Every year there's opportunities, because it rotates around the country here. So we're looking right now at the next rotation to see if there's possible interest with some of our markets in hosting the event.
Whitby did a great job too. I mean, they packed that rink for the opening night as well. I remember that. I believe we played Switzerland in the first game back in 2015. But yeah, and it would be great to see it again. So let's take stock of the season so far, guys. Stuff that went on before the WJAC started. Let's begin with the Governor's Showcase this year for the first time in Niagara Falls, just right across the border from Buffalo, of course, where it was held for several years. But they did a fantastic job on this. And it's always a great location, isn't it? It's so convenient for NCAA scouts to come up and watch. But just talk about the event this year and how happy you guys are with the way things went down.
Well, let me start with that one. I'll come off at this one from a business perspective. I mean, any time you kind of go to a new venue, a new location, you're always going to have hurdles. It's a little bit near and dear to my heart. I'm from the Niagara Falls area myself, so hosting the event in the city, I couldn't have been more prouder, and the facility held up very well. The organization, the Niagara Falls Canucks, did a fantastic job working with us. And by all accounts, the support from the community and, everything that transpired with the event, it was successful in every business metric that you can imagine. And, so we're extremely happy with how that worked out.
And Chris, great product on the ice too, wasn't it? The kids really showed their best, and a lot of scouts were out for it.
Yeah, I talked to a number of NHL scouts that were there, as well as NCAA schools, and the proximity for them to get there and crossing over the border wasn't an issue. They really, really enjoyed it. We played at 2 unbelievable rinks in that facility. They have 2 great rinks that we can view games from, and I think it's a great spot. And Rick can talk about whether we're going to go back or whatnot, but I was impressed with the volunteers. They really, really embraced us being there and kind of treated us like family, and it was a great viewing event for all the scouts.
So, and then just a couple of weeks ago, the Battle of Ontario between the OJ boys and the CCHL, again, obviously a ton of scouts out for that in Smiths Falls. But let's talk about that. First of all, it was great for fans to see, the 2 leagues combined. The CCHL's got a ton of talent as well. So it was fun to see the guys go head to head. But talk about that. And Rick, I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned to me the first time in the summer when this was going down, and that the leagues have a bit of an even closer collaboration now. So how did this all come about?
Well, I think you just said it right there, is that, our leagues do have a close collaboration, and some discussion, went on about, well, hey, what if we do this, and what if we do that? So, we thought it would be a great opportunity because again, it's an exposure opportunity. It's also something that can be used to identify, our players for the World Junior A Challenge. And we thought if we could have best on best, competition, aka our all-star versus their all-stars, that might be, a really good thing for our league. But then it got expanded to, our prospects, and we all know the scouts go out to see the prospects. So, the thought and the discussion turned to doing a championship event for the all-stars, and a showcase event for our prospects. And so it again, another great event, great host in Smith Falls this year. We couldn't be happier with the outcome of that event, and all the 80 players and the staff that got to experience that.
Do you think this is something that could become an annual event between the two leagues?
I think it's something that we definitely would want to continue to do with the success of what had happened this year. So, with our perspective, we're fully anticipating that potentially we'll be hosting next year, the event. So that's kind of how we're moving forward at this point.
Awesome. What's coming up then, guys? Because once we get out of the World Junior A Challenge, and then we've got maybe a couple weeks to go before the Christmas break and everything, what can we look forward to as we get into the new year?
And Chris, you want to take that one, buddy?
Sure. We've never done this before. We're going to have two teams made up of 20-year-olds. So 40 20-year-olds are going to play two OUAA teams, Saturday, January the 4th and Sunday, January the 5th. One team will play at the old Maple Leaf Gardens against TMU. We're looking forward to showcasing 40 20-year-olds in front of that team, that school at least, as well as some other OUA coaches that may want to come and watch. And then on the next night, we'll showcase 40 different 20-year-olds at EOIT. So this is the first year we've been doing this. We've thought about it for a couple of years. We're always trying to find a way where we can showcase our players. And sometimes when you look at all-star teams and you look at prospect teams, sometimes those 20-year-olds kind of get left out. And we thought this is a way that we could produce value for those players in our league to showcase in front of some of the OUA schools. And we're pretty excited about that.
Will this be just guys who are uncommitted, or will we also have guys who've got NCAA commitments who are going to be on the teams?
Our plan is to showcase the best 40 20-year-olds in our league. So if they do have commitments, they'll be able to play. I think we want to keep the quality of play high. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's important that you need your best 20-year-olds to play against some of these kids that are 24, 25, 23, years old. So if we want to put out a product where we're competitive and we're able to show what these kids can do, we need to have our best there. So some of the kids may be committed.
And there's some great 20-year-olds in our league this year, guys with OHL experience. But I mean, we look at a guy like Colton Smith, of course, who's now committed to Clarkson. I could see him doing some serious damage in those games, and I'm looking forward to watching it. One of the biggest stories, obviously, in all of hockey over the past, month since around the start of November when this first came out. And we've talked about it on the show. I spoke to Commissioner Savoy about it. I talked to Frankie about it last week. And other guests is the new NCAA regulations where players with major junior experience can now also go down and get Division I scholarships beginning August 1st, I guess, of next year. So let's get both your perspectives on this, guys, as to your thoughts on this, what it means for the kids, and what it means for the league also going forward.
Well, let me
have a crystal ball.
Try. I'm not the hockey guy here, but I'll try to draw on my experiences and then my perspective from business side of it. But way back, I was a former player that played in this same league, and I was faced with the decision: do I go to an NCAA Division I school on a scholarship, or do I play in the OHL? And I think the biggest thing that comes to my mind, it takes the guesswork out of it. So no decision. You go where, you think that you can have the best opportunity to develop and play, and then, take it from that point on. I think from a business perspective, like from our league's perspective, I think it's going to make our league better. I think there's positives and some great opportunities for the OJHL to become a much better league in terms of its quality of play, and the business opportunities that may come from it. So that's my 2 cents. Now let's hear from the real hockey guy here.
I was going to bring up your story, Rick, of how you had an NCAA college education package in front of you and you decided to go the other way. But I will say, I think it's great for the kids. It's great for the players. They don't need to make a choice one way or the other. They can do both. And I also think it's great for their development. So I think you always want to play at the highest level you possibly can. So whether it's the OHL and then our league, and then NCAA, or vice versa, our league, then OHL, then NCAA. You want to just have the kids have different options, which they have now, more options. And we're going to be working heavily with the OHL, moving kids up and down for their development. And if a kid's not ready yet to play in the OHL, he'll be playing our league, and he'll be able to affiliate and go up and down, and we'll be able to help them with his development. Point out some weaknesses and strengths that he may be having at our league that will help that player once he gets to the OHL. But I think at the end of the day, it's great. It's awesome for our league. It's great to be part of Hockey Canada and have this development model in front of us. And I think it's great for families and kids, and it's going to be really good for hockey.
That was my next question, Rick. I was going to ask you about your time in the league. Of course, I had Frank on last week, who played with the Brampton Warriors, late 70s, early 80s, before he went down to the University of Minnesota and then on to the NHL. And you were an Aurora Tiger back in the day. Did you guys overlap, by the way? Did you play against Frank? Do you remember?
No, I'm a year older than Frank. Frank and I grew up in the same circle. So I've known him pretty much my whole life. But I went there as a 16-year-old, first time away from home. So I experienced all those things that a young hockey player would experience, being the first time away from home, going to a new school, playing in a better quality league, because back then, the league had 10 teams, true provincial junior A league at the time. So
yeah, it was older too, wasn't it, back then? It was older too.
Well, yeah. I mean, what was really interesting, it was older, but our team, the Aurora Tigers, we had about 6 16-year-olds on the team. Wow. I think it was 6 16-year-olds, 1 15-year-old. Right. And the rest of them were all, 19, 20-year-old guys that kind of, were showing us the ropes and what have you. But it was an extremely successful draft year for the Aurora Tigers that year. We had, I think, 5 guys drafted in the first 2 rounds of the OHL draft. Wow. I think it's so long ago now, some of the memories are kind of escaping me. But we had a couple players that also, I think we had also 3, maybe 4 players that went on to play in the NCAA. Ohio State, I can remember Jamie McCown, who was on that team with me, went to Ohio State. Wow. A guy by the name of Andy Brown, and Brian Clark went to the University of Miami of Ohio. So there was a lot of good quality hockey players advancing. And I think the league hasn't changed. I mean, that's what our goal is. It continues to be now. And, we always, have the perspective of hearing what players are thinking, and Chris more than I, but, things haven't changed too much. It's a big decision. The kids go through the same sorts of thoughts. The parents go through the same, vetting of where their kids are going to go. So we know it's an important decision, and we know, how important it is. So it's good to have guys like us, I hope, where we can, lend credibility to the league. We've been there before, and we understand what the thought process is, and we know what the feelings are. And Chris can vouch for the same thing from his experience.
Yeah, hasn't changed much, but it was a little rougher back then, I think, wasn't it? When you played, Rick?
Well, my coach's name was Terrible Ted Tobias. So I think it was a little bit different time, a little bit different era. So
I remember. Well, I remember.
I look at the quality of our players now, and I think, geez, I don't know if I could play in this league. Like our players are so good. So
well, we had Junior B back then, of course, with Streetsville and stuff, and it was definitely it was a different game than what they played. Chris is shaking, is agreeing with this, but yeah, it was there were fights all over the place, and the league has definitely gotten away from that. So no, but I mean, then he went on to the OHL, of course, and had a great career there. Chris, as a coach in this league and a scout and a GM and stuff, I'm trying to go over the teams here: Blades, Waxers, Ice Hawks, and Raiders. Is that right?
Yep.
That you've been involved with. And you were a coach on two powerful Blades teams back in 08 and 2010 that won the Buckland, and both went on to the Centennial, I believe. That's correct, right? You both went on to the Centennial, won the Dudley Hewitt Cup back then as well. Give us your thoughts on some of those teams back then, because of course I was a camera guy in Georgetown for years, and boy, what a rivalry between those two teams at the Alcott and then at the Oakville Arena as well. Back and forth they would go, and Oakville was just getting the better of Georgetown just by a hair back then. And then of course it flipped a few years later where Georgetown was getting the better of them. Fantastic rivalries though, and some incredible players that came out of those Oakville teams.
Yeah, we had a really good run. I was fortunate enough to be part of some really, really good teams in Oakville from 2007 and 8. And then the next 3 years, we were in the finals 4 years in a row, which is still, I believe, an OJHL record. We won 2 Buckland Cups and then won 2 Dudley Hewitts and then went to 2 RBC Bank Cups. 2008, we were in Cornwall. In 2010, we were in Dauphin, Manitoba, which was a great experience for our players. I still keep in touch with a number of those kids. My 2 kids were little, so we billeted kids from our team, which helped my kids become great athletes and go on to do the great things with the individual sports that they were playing. But it was so much fun to be around them, so much fun to be part of a winning program. When I was in Markham, it was our 50th year anniversary. Unfortunately, the team folded after that year, but that was a lot of fun. And then I got to take over Milton for a year before they had an ownership change. And then Greg Walters, who's a good friend of mine, asked me to come and help him build a Georgetown team, which wasn't tough when you had Greg Walters coaching. You got a lot of good hockey players, and the guy sure can coach, and you see what he does with Windsor and what he's done in Oshawa prior to that, and no one sound as well. So being around good hockey people and having friends like that never hurts. And it's been fun. We've seen a lot of good kids, NHL draft picks play on our teams, teams that I was associated with, and just being around young people and helping them get to the point that they want to get to with this individual, the sport that they play and love so much, and play at the highest level they possibly can, and help them chase their dreams, help them accomplish that, whatever it may be, whether it's the OHL, whether it's NCAA, whatever it is. And then obviously helping them get into different jobs after hockey, but whether it's at the junior A level and stuff. We do a lot of things with the OPP right now. I've spoken to a number of fire departments that are looking for kids, and they love having team members from our league come and join their departments. It's great just to be around them.
It is, and it's the OJ has really grown into a league. I mean, when you look at the representation on these Team Canada East teams over the last few years and everything, you can see it's truly become one of the best junior A hockey leagues in all of Canada. It doesn't happen overnight either. When you look in the 90s, when this league became a junior A league, when the Central and the Metro leagues merged and became a overnight, if you want to call it that. But let's be honest, there hadn't been a real junior A league in Southern Ontario since 1986, I think, was when the original OPJHL disbanded, right? And then all those junior A players had to play somewhere. So it was still, I mean, those junior B leagues got pretty strong, but still making the transition to junior A, the success did not come overnight. On a national level, it was difficult sometimes until the Tigers broke through. And when was the first one? 2004, I think, was when they won their first RBC. But it's been great to see over the last few years just how players are starting to come to the OJ, and they see it as a place where they could really excel their game and take the step to the next level.
I agree, Alex. I mean, I think, well, first of all, I just wanted to compliment Chris. Not a lot of people know how he's very, very decorated, like with his background. as a coach, as an administrator, as a GM, and with, Team Canada programs. But getting back to that question, a lot of the things that have transpired over the past number of years is some of the growth that we've had as a league away from the ice. Developing an OJHL foundation that has a first assist program, has a second assist program, which are two fantastic programs that focus on our players' mental health and well-being and life skills. And the second assist focuses on reputation management, some of the social sensitivity, topics of the day right now, and educating them. And then Chris, with his department, creating the Department of Player Safety, a massive program that people don't really talk about, but we're one of the only leagues that have created that sort of thing. Having the OJHL Images program that we have, and
Tim does a great job.
Yeah, and on I could go, but the point is that I think that those are symbiotic with the quality of players that we're able to recruit to come into our league over the past number of years, and the quality of the play. And so we're only looking to try to get better and bigger and improve all the time. So that's where we're trying to head right now.
Yeah, I agree. Our two groups, our two operations, whether it's business or the hockey side, we talk and mingle a lot about different things that we're going to do. And I think the first thing we always think about is, what are we going to give to the players? Like, what kind of value are we offering them for them to play in our league? And with things that Rick has done on the business side, some of the hockey stuff we do, we're continually trying to add value to the player that plays in our league. And I really believe our league's become a destination league for players to develop and move on to higher levels. And this all-star game that we had with the CCHL is just proof of that. When we talked to NHL scouts, they said, listen, we want to see the best on best between your two leagues. Your two leagues are the top two leagues in Ontario. We want to see the best kids play from your two leagues against each other. And that was just something that we put together. It took us about a year to come up with, but it was a huge success. And as we said, Rick, I think we'll do it again next year. But the CCHL has been a great partner of ours through this initiative. And we're looking to build on it more and just keep adding value to players that play in our league.
Awesome, guys. Yeah, we're just about out of time, but big plans for Christmas, or are you just going to take some R&R?
What do we get, Rick? 3 days off?
Yeah, I don't know. We're still pretty busy. I mean, we got the event coming on right away. Our Hall of Fame selection committee is going to be starting to convene to talk about next year's nominees for OJHL Hall of Fame. So that's going to be happening over, the next month. We're going to be preparing for the OJHL Combine. So lots of things on the go. Our commissioner, who none of this happens without his leadership. He's out at the World Junior A Challenge. So, we're looking forward to when he gets back and he can start leading us again with some of the great things that we're planning on doing.
He was smart enough to hire two old guys, eh, Rick?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we're like the senior members.
One of you guys has a good haircut anyway. I don't know about
exactly,
but
it's real cheap.
Real cheap.
Well, Alex, what about you? Let's flip the script here, and let's maybe we can ask you a question or two. So,
okay, ask away.
I'll ask the first question.
Sure.
So, tell me how you feel about OJ All Access podcast and the first 7 shows. What's your thoughts?
I mean, it's a ton of fun. It really is. I mean, hopefully, first of all, people enjoy watching it. You hope you put out a good product. But, I mean, for years we did, since 2015, 2016, we started doing the OJ Today, which was a 30-minute television show that we did every week. And I'm not going to lie, I love doing that. I love doing the 30-minute shows. But it's also it's limiting because you're covering so many highlights and then you're doing stories and everything. And I love doing all that stuff. But in terms of having real conversations, like we might do like a 5-minute studio interview segment and that was it, right? So you couldn't get really in depth about stuff. And even with what were we doing last year, OJ on the Fly, Rick, it was a 5-minute show. That's great. This is cool though, because we can have all kinds of people on, and we can just sit here and chat, chat about hockey, chat about life and stuff. And I mean, we're not going to do it for an hour and a half and hopefully not bore people to death, but hopefully they find it interesting getting to talk about, all the topics that we talk about. And also with what's going on right now, like as Marty Savoy said, when I had him on about 3 weeks ago, this is the most seismic shift in junior hockey over the past 50 years or whatever now with these new regulations coming in. So it's kind of cool that we launched the podcast this year and we're able to talk about all this stuff in depth. So there you go, Rick.
Yeah, no, we're happy about it. Chris, you got a question for Alex?
I want to know how is it in the move out west? How are you loving it? You loving it?
I love it. I love it. Yeah, no, I do. It's my family lives out here, right? So my dad's retired in Victoria. So it was obviously a big decision to do it because I've been a Toronto guy my entire life. Well, Streetsville guy. Let's talk about communities here. I'm from Streetsville, then Port Credit. So I like my small towns, in the general Toronto area. But how it just came about was we were completely shut down during COVID, right? And it was January of 2021. And my brother was moving back from Australia because he's a Toronto kid too. Long story anyway, but he's also lived in BC in the past. Our whole family's out here, and he let me know that he's moving back. And he said, we've always talked about this. You should make the move to Vancouver. And I said, well, I can't. I've got my business. I got this and that. And he said, well, hold on, hit pause for a second here. What better time would there be than right now because of the fact that everything is shut down?
Nothing's going on.
There's nothing going on anyway. So you can get out to Vancouver, you can get set up, and then when things start getting going again, you can hit the ground running. And I will give kudos to Rick and Marty, who I talked to. And I said, look, I'm going there. It would be awesome to know if we could still do the stuff that we're doing, because you can do this from anywhere now, right? I mean, obviously it doesn't matter. I've got a studio. So if I went to Vancouver, could we still, at least for the first year, still do a show? And they both gave their full support. And that made a huge difference too. So I'll forever be grateful for that I could still have a job, when I came out here and set up here for the first time. But to answer your question, that's a long-winded answer, but it's awesome because my whole family's out here. I'm closer to my dad, aunts, uncles, cousins, everything. So I'm loving it. And I get to ski at Whistler for Christmas time, which I'm looking forward to. So
great time to be around family.
Well,
for
Alex,
sure.
Alex, you've done a great job with the show. We really appreciate it. One final question from me. Chris and I both love our golf, but we heard from a little birdie that you're a tennis player.
Yeah.
And so I heard that there's a senior tennis player that's really giving you a run for your money on the courts out there. Maybe you could tell us about that.
Wait, hold on for a second. Who actually told you that? Did I tell you this? Did I tell you this?
I don't tell who my sources are.
Yeah.
There's a gentleman that lives in my condo building who's 83 years old. This must be who you're talking about. And this man is a force of nature. It's unbelievable. He was one of the top ranked players in British Columbia when he was younger. He plays every single day. He can still play full sets, and this guy will run me ragged all over the court. Now, granted, I am not in the best shape of my life, but he is. It's phenomenal what this guy can do at 83 years of age. So I don't know if I let that slip to you or not, Rick, but it's definitely it doesn't
possible.
Reflect well in my game for the most part that I can get pushed around by an 83-year-old. But yeah, I do love my tennis. I love golf too, but let's be honest, my game has gone completely south over the last few years. So I've began focusing more on tennis again. So
now I know there's a sport that has come into Rick's life
pickleball
not that long ago. Have you picked up a pickleball racket yet?
I was just getting, what's funny? I knew it. I knew you were going to say that. My family, my cousins who were huge tennis players have gotten completely hooked on pickleball and now refuse to play tennis. All they want to do is play pickleball.
I think Rick's ranked in going on tour.
Well, I'm ranked in the neighborhood. Let's
in the neighborhood.
Let's put it that way. But I think I'm the youngest one, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
You're the ranked player in Crystal Beach.
Yeah.
Were you a tennis player back in the day, Rick?
What's that?
Were you a tennis player back in the day?
Oh no.
Baseball,
but Yeah,
But
no,
now you picked up pickleball.
Alex, just wanted to say that you're doing a great job, and
Thanks,
want to
Rick.
wish everybody happy holidays.
Yeah,
Chris, I feel like Rick ended up hosting the show at
okay.
the end of it here. So
It could
anyway,
be
guys, yeah.
your morning meetings.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, honestly, thanks for being on, and just happy holidays. Have a great Christmas, and my best to all your families. And I think we've got one more show before the break next week, and that'll be a good one. I think I'll have Alan Corkum and Ron Valentine on to sort of go over all big stuff from the season so far. But this is the second last one before the break. So, guys, listen. Thanks for taking the time, and we'll do this again before the end of the season for sure.
Thanks, Alex.
Sounds good, Alex. Take care.
And that is going to wrap things up for today. Thanks a ton to Rick Morocco and Chris Vanstone for coming on and chatting with me. There's one more show before the Christmas break. Next week, we're going to do a review of the year so far. Top players, top teams, top plays, all the good stuff. So be sure to tune in for that one as well. Until then, thank you so much for watching, folks. I'll see you next week.